What's the nature of your emergency?
Good morning, police, fire, military, and families, and to everybody listening in on the Tactical Living podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Walton, and I'm joined with my guest this morning from Alaska, not Chicago, Mr. Chris Stinson. Chris, how are you?
I'm doing very great. Thank you so much, Ashley.
So, Chris, I didn't know that you had the portfolio, the experience, the type of resume that you do until I got into reading the pre-interview questions that you filled out, and then of course social media stalking you and going on your website. And I have to first say, because I don't want to forget, your children have the coolest names that I have ever heard out of any children that I have ever heard of. So Passage and Lane, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely love those names. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So I again, you mentioned, I think I grew up outside Chicago, and I really loved growing up there. I was a bit of a lake rat, spent a lot of time on the water and playing and such, and just doing, I think, a normal childhood. Felt pretty privileged to have some great loving parents and a great family. And I've got a lot of family in Chicago fire as well. My grandfather was actually the first minority fire commissioner in the city, and then my uncle went and followed his footsteps as well. So that kind of spurred an interest there. And I came to Alaska actually to finish up college. I started off again in Wisconsin, and then got up here, fell in love with nature and outdoors. And I started working for the U.S. Forest Service. I was a commissioned peace officer with them for quite a while, but I was doing more resource protection. I've always, Ashley, I've had what other people call sexy jobs. I was a kayak ranger for about 8 years. So I went out in Prince William Sound, this beautiful mountain waterway, tons of wildlife, for 10-day wilderness patrols where we would just go out and look for evidence of human use, clean up some things, check on some wildlife stuff. And I met my wife up here, and we started a family. I would do the Forest Service work in the summer. Excuse me, work up here at our local ski hill in the winter as a ski patroller. Another one of those great jobs. We are in a Class A avalanche area, so I would carry explosives on the slopes, and got to do a lot of that fun work. We have a military howitzer program here too, so we have 4 military cannons that we would shoot at the slopes, and I loved it. Started
how nonchalant you say that. Like, we have military cannons, we shoot at the slope. No big deal.
Yeah. Again, I just have had these beautiful jobs, but I feel like I've always chased what I wanted to do, what would be fun. And, that served me until, I don't want to seem wrong, but then, I had some kids and started raising a family, and I actually backed off some of the patrol work, and I was a stay-at-home dad. My wife taught, so I could be gone doing the wilderness patrols in the summer and be home a little bit more in the winter. But I really stopped taking care of myself. I had this limiting belief that I had to take care of everybody before myself, to the point where I even stopped eating some of my favorite fruits, like bananas and such. Like, no, that's the soft fruit. That's for the kids. I can't touch that. But it was much bigger of an issue. I stopped really, socializing so much and getting outside and doing what fulfilled me, just because it was all about the kids. And really just did not have a good positive impact on me. And that's what kind of led me to mindset work and personal growth and development. I realized I really immersed myself in fatherhood, and I was really good at it, but I was burning myself out there too. And even then going back to work, it's like, oh, I love these jobs. These are really fun, sexy jobs, but they weren't fulfilling me, and it was hard to realize that. Everybody, especially you're hearing all that, oh my God, you got a great job. That must be fun. I'm like, yeah, it's fun, but I've kind of mastered them. I'm not growing anymore. I'm not learning anything new. And what I've come to learn is, and I really believe it, there's no like leveling off in career or life. Like, you're either learning and growing, or you're slipping backwards. And I got stuck. I really resisted a death and rebirth phase of, like, the death of Chris before kids and rebirth of Chris after kids. things like skiing out onto slopes with explosives to cause avalanches just weren't as exciting, and of course, maybe now as a parent, they seemed a little dangerous. And but that might be one extreme. Even just getting out and playing in the mountains, some of the ways I like to do weren't doing it for me, and I struggled for, I think, too long to kind of figure that out, that I need to make some changes. And mindset for me was really one way I was able to push back against some of these beliefs and constructs that I created that were keeping me from really just being happy. I didn't really have to go do a lot or change careers or move or change family, any of that. I just had to change my thoughts and change the thinking patterns that was going in. And so I've been on that journey for about 5 or 6 years now. And it's just, I feel incredibly blessed to get to guide others on a similar journey.
Man, I love everything that you're saying. You're definitely speaking my language. Good morning, everybody. Thought I'd say hi before hitting the highway. Have a
Good
good day, Chad.
morning.
I stopped socializing years ago. Yeah, I completely understand that. We are doing a giveaway. Whoever comments the most on our live is going to win. What are we giving away today? A 72-piece professional survival kit for hunting, hiking, disasters, and accidents, which is pretty badass. So something
Perfect.
that I might also buy myself. Happy can be a mindset. Yes, that is absolutely the truth. So you described something, Chris, that I have personally been through, not with children, but on a personal level, saying that you felt so much guilt even doing something as mundane as eating the bananas, because the bananas are a soft food and should be reserved for the children. So what allowed you to push past that sort of guilt that we feel when we want to pour into ourselves?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ashley. So what allowed me to kind of push past some of that guilt? For me, it was really gaining an understanding that what was the root of that? What was that belief, right? So with mindset, it's a lot of these stories we tell ourselves, or I kind of call them limiting beliefs, constructs, dysfunctions even, but I like to narrow it down to a narrative. What's that self-talk? And again, that belief for me was I need to take care of everybody else before I take care of myself. And to overcome that, I really just had to look at that belief. Okay, where did that come from? Like, where either was it something I picked up from my parents? Was it something I picked up from society, like movies? I think with that belief specifically, being a stay-at-home dad, I felt like maybe I had something to prove, like, hey, we can do this too, but to do it, I got to like full on immerse myself in that. And especially with toddlers and babies, I mean, I've had other people help me understand that, believe it or not, and I'll attach to this. Maybe it's another limiting belief, but men just don't have the patience that women have, so it is a bit more of a struggle. And so anyway, I had to take that belief and I really just had to flip it into a new empowering decision. And the beautiful part about a lot of these constructs that are holding us back, if you really like pause and think about them, they're completely illogical. And they're not serving you. It's just this narrative you held, and it's usually deep in your subconscious. So you're not always just like, oh, I never came out and was like, oh, I can't eat that banana because I have to take care of them, right? It was just something that was spinning in my subconscious. And when I could give myself the space to write some of this down and reflect on it, like, oh yeah, that's a limiting belief. And then I just have a tool, an empowering decision matrix, where I write the limiting belief, I write a new empowering decision, which for me was, and generally empowering decisions are just the opposite of these beliefs holding us back. The empowering decision there was, until I take care of myself, I can't even imagine or expect to take care of anybody else, right? And then I had to stack all the evidence for why that's true. And that's kind of where the meat and potatoes is, because the brain's a bullshit detector. So you can't just like, oh, I am happy and abundant and blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, wait, no, how are you? But there's evidence. There's always evidence. You can go back and look for past experiences and write down like, oh yeah, I've tried this and this hasn't worked. And even now, like while I was writing that down, I had started a development journey. I'm like, look, I'm taking care of myself and look how much better I'm showing up for them, So you kind of have to trick the brain, not even trick the brain. You got to show the brain the truth, because the brain is just a Google machine. You want to do something, it's going to pull up all this past experiences to tell you whether that's good or whether that's safe or whether you should do it. But the brain has also evolved to be a survival mechanism. So it wants to keep you safe, which it thinks is in its comfort zone, not doing anything different. And this is where, you know, when you feel nervous about taking a new job or doing something you've never done that's really hard, even if you maybe deep down you know it's safe and it's okay, the brain's trying to pull evidence to show you it's not safe, because it really doesn't want you to do new things, because it doesn't know it's going to be okay. It thinks actually you might die from some of this stuff, but not a lot of that is going to kill us in this day.
Yeah, I love that. And my coach calls that reprogramming our algorithms, which I think
Yeah,
is,
I
is
love that.
exactly what you're talking about with
Perfect
this
analogy.
framework. So,
Yep.
same as me as well. I still put people first, but I learned recently that I can be right up there with them. Yes, that is absolutely the truth. Our job changes us. Good morning to whoever said that. It's up to the individual to find that happy medium. Good morning, everyone. Hello from Pennsylvania. Hi, good morning. So, Chris, you have a strategy that you use in order to help people to disconnect their mindsets from work and to emotionally be able to clock out, which is something that I know that so many first responders and armed service members struggle with. So,
Mhm.
can you walk us through that process?
Yeah, so you know the concept, and it's actually got a good term called fancy whatever, psychological detachment from work. And I really like that, because it kind of highlights what we're trying to do, like kind of really get our thinking and our thought patterns away from work, and which allows us to be present at home, whether that's with family or with ourself and self-care, or our peers or whoever we live with, whatever. We just got to learn to disconnect that. And I get it. Like, that is a big struggle. And admittedly, it's a struggle for law enforcement, first responders, more than many other professions, because we just have that propensity. We're all leading with our hearts and, and just care so damn much. It's hard to let go of that. You know, what I have found has worked, and I worked in a you know, more professional career for a while there too, and doing operations work. um, we get to kind of find opportunities to come up with some kind of habit, right? We're routine driven beings. Humans just generally are. We're outcome driven. We want an outcome. So if we can start finding something that we can do after work that we do consistently at the end of the day, to kind of signal to our brain that we're detaching, that we're ending the day. A lot of people like to just do a little walk, maybe walk around the block or commute up to the car. Sometimes it could be like listening to a specific podcast, you know, on the way home. You know, people that work from home, again, sometimes it's getting out to move around or doing like a workout or anything like that. It's a little less about specifically what you do. I personally, especially in some stressful jobs, I like to recommend people do some like reflection time. I, for a while, kept just an end of workday journal where I would just write down how the day went, and specifically things for the next day. Because mostly what I was carrying was like, oh yeah, don't forget that. Oh, you got that tomorrow. Don't forget that. And when you write this stuff down, you can just pull it out of your brain and put it down. The same works great at night. Like if you find yourself ruminating on the same thought, you know, I used to spin that in my head as I'm lying in bed. It was usually something I had to do the next day. And I just started keeping a journal by my bed. And if I wrote all that stuff down, it would just disappear. But again, it doesn't need to even be like a super heavy reflective meditative thing. It just needs to be a similar thing, that you just start to train yourself. Like, hey, this is time to shut down. This is time to shift your focus and let work go. And it takes time. I think this is where a lot of people struggle. Like, oh, I did that one day, or I did a full week of doing it and it didn't work. Well, again, we're habitual beings. It takes a little time, and just stick with it. Give yourself compassion, realize that this isn't happen right away, but the benefits are really profound and can be really, really powerful.
Yeah, and I love that concept. And there's a couple things coming up for me because I recently read a study that shows that we are not supposed to be reading in bed, because bed is synonymous with sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're reading, then our brain is very confused. Am I supposed to be awake, alert, and taking in
Yeah.
value here, or am I supposed to be like resting and relaxing? And so it's very similar to that. And I remember jobs being younger where you had a physical time card and you would clock in and clock out. And there's this sense of gratification with the acknowledgement and tapping into like the sense of physically clocking out from work. And so what you're talking about reminds me very much of that, like being attuned to whatever the activity is that you choose for your clock out or I'm done, but making sure that you're aware of it and then using it on a regular basis.
Yeah, no, I love that. Again, it's a habitual thing. It's just like Pavlov's bell, like somebody's ringing the
Mhm.
bell. Oh, okay, cool, brain shift. And there's good comments in here about like maybe not hanging out with other law enforcement professionals, or because that's all you talk about. And on one hand, like, yeah, that's okay, but I would also challenge you to maybe do that with that community, but challenge that community to not talk about work. Call them out, call them forward, like, hey, let's talk about, because then you're actually serving others too of how to do this. But you really are the product of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So yeah, if you're always going out with people after work and they just can't help themselves, but that's how they want to decompress and do this and that, if you need that, great. But if not, maybe it is time to kind of change who you're surrounding yourself with.
Yeah, absolutely. What happens when you can't get that time to write things down and then continue to deal with situations?
Yeah, time is a funny thing, and a lot of, oh, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time. Really, if you keep saying you don't have enough time, you just don't prioritize it. We get to make our own time, and that was a hard lesson and limiting belief I had to overcome too. This is why now I get up at 5 o'clock every day, and I get a full, generally 2 hours, sometimes 90 minutes every morning to take care of myself before my kids get up, before my wife gets up, before my day gets going. The morning's a little bit easier. So I understand at the end of the day that can be hard and decompress, but sometimes it's only just a couple minutes. I know a lot of people that do this in their car, right? Okay, I left work, I'm going to sit in my car, pulling out my journal. I'm just going to write down a couple wins, like if and journal can be tough for some people too, especially reflective journaling. So what I really teach is just this concept of 3 by 3, because there's no resistance to that. And I do this every night before I go to bed, but I've helped people detach with this way where you're just listing 3 wins for the day, 3 celebrations, what went good, just 3 little bullets, this, 3 gratitudes for the day, like, hey, I'm really grateful for this and this and this, and then 3 goals for the next day, like, and goals with, it could also just be to-dos, like 3 things you want to just keep front of mind that you want to do. I really like the 3 by 3 format. For one, it's going to bring really good energy. It's going to help. We never make enough space to celebrate what went good. Our brain always goes toward the like, oh, that was effed up, that was really bad. And we ruminate on those things. Again, that's a survival mechanism of the brain. It wants to always be solving problems. If there are no problems, the brain's going to make up problems, because if the brain is not actively solving problems, it really thinks it's not doing its job and we're going to die. But again, there's primal fears are not as relevant today as it's all intellectual fears, like, what is Susie in accounting going to think about my outfit today? Not to credit, there are definitely primal fears out there, but the brain can't tell the difference, right? So anyway, celebrating wins is really good. Gratitude is a really powerful energy, and I know some people have a hard time with that. So I like just the 3 bullets I force myself just to write. It could be anything, like, the sky is blue, I'm breathing, I woke up today. I'm grateful I have a car to sit in to drive home and not have to walk, but chances are, once you get in practice of that, you're going to find even deeper things. I'm grateful for the thing that person did. I'm grateful for that thing I watched happen there on the street where somebody supported somebody else. So yeah, a 3 by 3. And then, yeah, just the 3 goals or to-dos is a great way to just sit down. And that takes 5 minutes. So if you really can prioritize a little time for self-care and detachment, you can do that in 5 minutes anywhere, in your car, on your walk home, commute, whatever be it.
Yeah, for sure. Ashley and I plan fishing trips every year, and that's one rule that we have on the boat. Yes, limit work talk. We charter a fishing boat with a bunch of officers, and I don't let them shop talk when we're fishing. With the passing of my mom, I work 12-hour nights. I work alone and my shifts are quiet. What's a suggestion to tune out from my thoughts?
Yeah, I think one good idea, it depends what you're able to be doing, if your shifts are quiet and you have time. If there's thoughts that are ruminating and they keep coming up, and again, writing this stuff down, reflective journaling can be really, really powerful. You can just ask yourself, why am I always thinking about that? Or why am I ruminating on this? And use the who, what, when, where, why to answer that and keep going. And generally there's just a little bit of either incongruency, or, you want to be taking maybe an action and you're not. That can cause kind of some of that hardship, stress, or anxiety. And a lot of it just is stuff that's spinning in the subconscious, and we got to pull that out. And I've mentioned it a couple times because journaling, I've really found, is the quickest way to access your subconscious. And this is physically writing it down. I'm not even saying type it out on a computer, because you can type way much faster and you can write. When you slow your thinking down and you force yourself to write what's going on, it really allows you to get that self-awareness. And from that self-awareness, we can address things, we can take action, or we can just kind of piece things together. Why am I ruminating on that? Another idea, if you really have the ability and you want to just developing yourself, like podcasts are great, as are books. But again, it depends what you can really be doing while you're still at work there.
I'm going to wrap this up here with you, Chris, because you're getting into trouble here in the comments. Derek says, did you just use the Q word for shifts? Laugh out loud. There went the neighborhood. Chris, I know that you have some free value, some additional free content that people can get on your website, in addition to a paid course and a Facebook group. So can you tell us how to get a hold of you?
Yeah, of course. So really easy. I'm Work Life Mindset is the company that I run, and worklifemindset.com. I do have some really good freebies. I got a journaling toolkit. So if any of that speaks to you, it's a great little lesson video and a good worksheet to help prime you how to do some of this journaling practices. I also have a time management core freebie and a full-on course, which is really powerful and teaches time blocking and productivity. All things that I found really valuable to really pay attention to what I'm doing and live more intentionally, get on this growth journey, and detach from work, because a lot of the work detachment came from, okay, what am I doing? Like, I'm home now. How do I fill this time? And I wasn't doing things that I wanted to do because I was decision fatigue at the end of the day. So how do you make those decisions ahead of time to prime your pre and post work day to fill your cup and do whatever you need to do to recharge is powerful. And then, on Facebook, the Work Life Mindset group, it's a private group, but I let most anybody in there. So you can check us out on there.
Cool. Chris, thank you so much for your time. If there's any questions that we didn't get to, then Chris, if it's okay, I'll tag you in them, and Chris will make sure to address it and connect with you guys. Hope you guys have a good day. Keep commenting. Whoever comments the most within the next 24 hours, I will send you this pretty badass tactical kit. So I hope everybody has a good day.
Thanks, Ashley. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
911, what's the nature of your emergency?